Today we've got some classy designer fragrances that you will absolutely fall in love with at first sniff. These are some of the best because you get hooked on them immediately and you know there's something special and unique about them the second you try them. I've had that happen a lot. I have a lot of fragrances, of course, so it doesn't happen all the time or every time, but more often than not. But every now and then I'll smell something new, different, exciting, or just a really good rendition or flanker of one of my old favorites that just hooks me immediately. And I don't know, there's just something really satisfying about that. You know, sometimes I'm on the fence about certain new releases and it takes me a while to either warm up to them or to just slowly dislike them even more. But these are ones that were a no-brainer for me. And of course, that's just me, myself, my opinion. These worked really well for me right out of the gate. That's not going to be the case for everybody. But like I always say, the cool thing about this is you could subscribe to channels that have a similar taste that you do. So that way, if you align, a lot of things that I might like, you might like as well. If you're not into the things that I like, then, you might be making a lot of blind buys or trying things that just don't work for you. So something to keep in mind. Now, this first one is a brand new release. It's one of those weird situations, not even available at retailers yet, at least not at the time of me shooting this video. Maybe it is now, but this one hit discounters first, came in at like $130, something like that, which for a Parfum new release in 2024, below retail, that's not too bad in the grand scheme of things, because I'm not sure what this is going to retail for, but it's probably going to be up there pretty high. It's the new Acqua di Gio Profondo Parfum. I like this one. It's that Profondo existing DNA, but with a real nice nighttime sweetness about it, which is something that you didn't really get in the original Profondo. This is kind of like the Acqua di Gio Profumo or Parfum of Profondo, which that probably doesn't make any sense. It makes sense in my head, but Acqua di Gio Parfum is like the nighttime equivalent of the original Acqua di Gio, right? They're kind of two separate entities. Profondo itself is something that's quite a bit different than the existing Acqua di Gio EDT DNA and the Eau de Parfum and the Parfum and things like that. It's kind of its own little, subset. And so this is kind of just like a nighttime, more sweet, more rich version of that. And I think it's really nice, and I'm a big fan of the original Profondo, and it's nice to have something that kind of counteracts that a little bit. I really think they did something a bit new and exciting here, whereas with Profondo Eau de Parfum 2024, it's still Profondo with some minor tweaks, but nothing all that crazy, where I think this one, while it still might not be everybody's cup of tea, is providing just a bit more substance and just giving you kind of an excuse to wear this to a date in the evening, that sort of thing. And maybe even kind of stretch this one into the cooler times of the year, spring and then into fall as well. So I think this one actually turned out pretty good. I think it'll grow on a lot of people over time, especially, it's off to a good start now, being that you can get it for a below retail price. So definitely one to consider. For me, I liked it a lot immediately. And as I've had time to wear it here, more so recently, and it's been warming up outside, I've just been liking it more. I do think it's really, really good, and I also happen to like the fact that they brought back the magnetic cap. It's a cool touch. It's a 100 ml bottle, a little bit different. Magnetic cap is back for this one, which is pretty cool. I like it. Now, if that one's a bit too expensive or it's just not something that you really like all that much, this next one is coming in at around $40 on discounters, and it's something that is very likable and very mass-pleasing. It's a birchy, woody grapefruit scent with a kind of hint of smokiness, but not that much. And again, that price point is really hard to beat. It makes this one within reach for a lot of people if you're on a budget, is Missoni Parfum. And I also want to say, even if you're not on a budget, if money is no problem and you can go out and buy whatever you want, this is still good. I think people kind of might fall into that mindset sometimes. Oh, it's cheap or it's inexpensive. I don't need to buy that if I could buy something more expensive. Maybe that is the case for some people. For me, it's not, because I like whatever smells good. Now, price point to some extent comes into factor, because I'm not going to buy it if it's, $400 or $300 unless I know for sure it's something I'm going to like. But with this, kind of on the opposite end, going more affordable, if something is $25, $30, $20, and it smells really good and has decent performance, I'm going to wear it if I like it. So it's the same thing here. So it's got that grapefruit, the birch, the woods going on, a little bit of a citrusy kick going into a birchy, masculine, heavy, and slightly soapy dry down. So this one's very clean, very fresh. Again, adding to that versatility aspect. You could wear this for any situation, and pretty much everybody around you is going to like this one. And also going for the wearer themselves, as far as a blind buy is concerned, you could scoop this one up, throw it in your cart, and chances are you're going to like it, at least enough to where you would wear it. You might not fall in love with it. It's just going to depend on what you're into, but I think it's just a very safe purchase. Next up, we have 1 Million Lucky. You might not expect to see, a Paco Rabanne in this video, let alone a 1 million, because these do get a little bit of pushback sometimes. For me, the newer 1 millions have gotten a bit less exciting, and they've kind of really started to run together. So, 1 million Elixir, the Parfum, and then there's of course the Ruby or Royal. I think it's Royal, 1 million Royal. They're just kind of getting pretty similar, and it's getting to the point where now when I'm trying to think about how they smell separately, I can't quite remember. I would have to go reference back to my bottles to see. I know for sure the Parfum is very floral. I'm not the biggest fan of that one, but yeah, they're getting pretty similar. But 1 Million Lucky, this was kind of released back around the time when 1 Million Privé was being produced and doing very well, and just they had a few other flankers that were doing great, and they were a bit more unique. Now I think they're starting to lose some of their soul a little bit. But 1 Million Lucky, it's got that plum, the hazelnut, the aldehydes. It's a unique combination that you might not expect to see, but it really works well. So it is fruity. It has this kind of hazelnut, kind of gourmand, chocolatey sweetness about it, just a little bit, not too much. It's just a really unique combination of fruits and freshness and aldehydes and airy soapiness, and then some sweeter, heavier, richer notes as well, just to kind of come together and create something that a lot of people are really going to love. So this one really is unique. It stands out. You can buy it at retail. It's in stock right now on discounters for below retail, which for whatever reason, the past several months to maybe over a year, it hasn't been below retail, so it's a good time to pick this one up. Next up, we have Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Parfum Reserve Privé. I love this stuff. It was a release that I knew I was going to like the moment I saw the note breakdown. And even just looking at the pictures of it and the name, I had a pretty good feeling that I was going to like this one. And getting this one in and trying it for the first time, which I did do a first impression, so you can watch that kind of live as it played out. It was an immediate just A+, It's just so good, and just smelling it there, man, it's nice. It's got that iris, sweet, vanilla, peppery DNA that is existing in the regular Eau de Parfum, but then you're getting some whiskey and then some chestnut in here. So it's kind of adding to that kind of modernized style of sweetness that's used a lot. Chestnut kind of used in By the Fireplace, the Stronger With You's, just kind of giving it a little bit of a textured, nutty, sweet undertone, and then a little bit of a boozy kick as well from the whiskey. Not too strong, but it is prominent. I just think this is the best that it gets in the line currently. If they release something that is going down this road, but then even darker and heavier, maybe they throw in some oud, maybe they throw in a tobacco note or something, just trying to think of how they would go to make it even more kind of dark and rich. Something along those lines. Maybe it could get better from here. But really, guys, I kind of see this one as being just kind of the top of the top. I don't foresee them putting out something that dethrones this one anytime soon, because they've done their fresh ones like Gentleman Cologne, which has been discontinued. So they could release, some sort of new Eau Fresh or summer version, which I just don't think is going to take the prize from this one. So I don't really know where they're going next, because they kind of went a little bit more mainstream with the Eau de Parfum Boisé and Eau de Toilette Intense. Then they came back with this hit, which really changed things up. So we'll see, but I hope they keep this one going for a long time, and I love it. Now this next one here is getting pretty pricey, but it still is really good. And there's also an affordable alternative out there. You could get a $25 clone of this one, but it's Sauvage Elixir. So retailing for $180, something like that, coming in on discounters for usually around $150, sometimes testers for like $139, somewhere around in there. And Lattafa Assad is that $20 to $25 clone that you can get that is impressively good for the price. You might look at that price and you might think it's not going to be worth anything. It might be really synthetic and cheap and poor performing, but that's not the case. You got to give that a try. I think so many of you will be pleasantly surprised just how good they nailed this DNA at a fraction of the cost. So you don't have to spend a ton of money to get this smell on your skin if you don't have to or you don't want to. So I like it just because it's not really all that much like Sauvage, which is interesting. There's not a ton of a Sauvage smell in here at all. You're getting a ton of warm spices, nutmeg, cinnamon, licorice, and some sandalwood and that sort of thing. So really just a warm, sweet, but very masculine and kind of older school smell to it. It's not for the typical Sauvage crowd, the young guys in high school and college and things like that, Sauvage EDT. They would probably cringe and think this smells like an old man if they go from Sauvage EDT straight to this. I've said it before, but you kind of have to work through the progression. Start off with the Eau de Toilette, very fresh, bright, great for young guys. Work your way into the Eau de Parfum at some point, getting a little bit more refined. Work your way into the Parfum, getting even more refined, but still have that Sauvage DNA. And this is kind of like final form. This is going to be the most classy, the most upscale and gentlemanly smelling, but with an older school touch. If you can get past that price, it's great. You can buy a Lattafa Assad for $20 and you get essentially the same concept, the same vibe, wearing experience, just not having the real thing. Tom Ford Grey Vetiver Parfum. It's an amazing vetiver scent. I love vetiver used as a supplemental note, and I love it used standalone because there are many different varieties and forms of it. Very bright, fresh, and soapy vetivers, or you could get into something that's heavier, greener, deeper, and a little bit more, challenging to some extent. I mean, there's just so many ways to go about it. This one's kind of down the middle. It's heavier than the other gray vetivers from Tom Ford, of course, being that it comes in at a parfum, but it still does have a nice soapiness, a clean aspect. This would be a great everyday scent to wear to school, to work, and everything else in between. It's going to be up there in pricing. It's a parfum, and it's a Tom Ford, so that's recipe for expensive. But it's on discounters now, and typically $160 to $180 is where I'm seeing this one for 100 ml. So again, expensive, but as far as Tom Ford goes, it's not the worst that it can get. And so for a lot of people, that price point wouldn't make this an everyday wear scent. It might be a little bit more for special occasions, and that's perfectly fine too. It's just whatever you want to do with it. But just letting you know, this one does have the ability to be worn every day for any situation. It's just super easy to pull off, and it was no surprise that I loved this one as soon as I tried it because I'm a big fan of vetiver. Last up for this video, we have Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Intense. I love it, and I just checked out the new Parfum, which is also great. Has an even more sweet kind of amaretto boozy take, which is something that we haven't gotten yet in the line. And I was talking about this one a little bit too, and here it is. It was kind of inspiration because I realized that I hadn't actually really given this one a whole lot of attention lately on the channel, and so it's still good. I love pretty much all of the releases within the line, but there's something very cool about that chili pepper, smoke, spicy kick that you get out of this one. I mean, it really is prominent. You see those notes listed off and you might think they're just for show, for marketing, but when you smell this one, it truly does hit you. It is sharp and spicy and strong off the opening especially. And this one does calm down a little bit when you get it on skin and you get into the dry down, but when it opens up, it gets your attention for better or for worse. And so I think if you're after a head turner and something that could be a bit more challenging, and maybe you're up for a challenge yourself, something that you might not even be sure that you're going to like, and maybe you have to grow into it a little bit or just kind of get used to it, warm up to it, check this one out. It's on discounters pretty regularly. Usually don't have too much of an issue getting this one, and price point is also kind of on the lower end compared to like typically the Eau de Parfum and the Extreme. Alrighty guys, those are some designer fragrances that are super classy that I personally loved when I first tried them out. So I'll link all these down below. I've been referencing prices. Those are going to be through discounters. Also, anytime a new release like Profondo Parfum, Paradise Garden, etc. hits discounters, I do send out an email and a text to my mailing and texting list, which you can sign up to down below. Also, rare discontinued fragrances come into stock every now and then. Recently, Prada Luna Rossa Extreme came into stock. It was limited, but it did. A lot of other, harder to find scents have been coming up as well. I send out notifications for those. Make sure you sign up down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.